Welcome to Bring Out Your Badass Self, a movement to break your negative thoughts and habits and instead focus on building each other up and encouraging fearless authenticity.
Each week, we will get vulnerable and share experiences alongside our guests and audience. Come rediscover your inner badass self.
Good morning, badass.
Good morning. Good morning, Badass Nation.
Yes. Good morning, Badass Nation.
So, Kate, I have to tell you, I have my sexy phlegm voice today.
Yes.
I have a little bit
Bring it.
Yeah, I'm nurturing it with my hot tea, but I'm trying to stick in there. So far, I'm doing pretty good this morning. I do feel a little run down, really just from Halloween, honestly.
Too much fun.
Too much fun.
Too many treats.
Too much.
A lot of tricks, I'm sure.
Well, it was too much scaring the shit out of kids. And then just like screaming at them, and then it was just really cold. It was the first day. So the day before was 80 degrees in Atlanta. And then all of a sudden it shut down on Halloween and it was like really cold, and now it's cold. So that's why I've got my long sleeves on today. I was like, let's do long sleeves.
Yes.
It's so cold.
Yes. Well, I love it. I'm sorry you're not feeling well, though. It's kind of nice to go into a weekend where you can rest like somewhat guiltless, right? Like you can be like, it's not like you're missing work. I mean, I suppose you're missing some family time, but
yeah, we don't have really much planned this weekend, so that's good.
Yeah, Jenna and I have been calling this. We've been calling this Nesting November.
Nesting November.
Nesting, like so when you're like when you're pregnant and they say like you start to nest, you start to like get all your stuff ready. Jenna feels like every November she needs to like nest and get stuff ready in her house for winter, because we really love to like just huddle up in the winter and just stay in. So she's got to get decorations right and all sorts of stuff in the house. So it's Nesting November.
All right. Well, I see we have some people joining us. So Carmen, good morning, baddies.
Good
She's
morning.
Joining us from California. And then we have Maria. She let me know today that she had a cancellation on a meeting. So she said, "Good morning, BA people."
I love it. Good morning.
Do not say a badass.
Yeah, it's fine. Badasses.
That's right. So
good badass morning to Eric.
Oh, here we go. Yay. Hey, Eric. Good morning. So, Kate, I do have to tell you that it was quite fun on Halloween. So I dressed up as the Bride of Frankenstein, and I added some lights that people had to come up the driveway and go through the sidewalk to the front door where my husband had the candy. But I stood right at the end, and it was
of hilarious. The driveway or of the?
Yeah, it was on the sidewalk. Right as they would come, they had to get on the sidewalk from the driveway. And every time the kids would come up and they would stop on the driveway and just stare at me because I was standing there like this. And so I have like my hair is like up and I have a white face with like sunken cheekbones and eyes and things like that. And they're just like looking at me and they're like, "Is that real? Is that not real? Is that person gonna scare me?" And they were just would not go half the time. And the parents were like, "Just go." And so it was just hilarious because I would scare the shit out of them. And so sometimes I would let them go on. And there was this one kid that was hilarious. He would not go up the sidewalk. So he went through the yard and went the other direction. So his dad had gone by and said, "Scare the shit out of him." That's what he told me. And so when he was up there, his dad was behind him, and I knew he was distracted by the candy at this point. So I walked up behind, and I touched the dad to let him know I was behind him. And then when the kid turned around, he saw me and I was like this, and he like pushed the table back because he was so scared. He like hit it and was like, oh my God. And it was just, his dad was like, that was priceless. That was awesome. Oh my God. You just had a blast.
Yeah, I can imagine. I love it. I love it so much. We've experienced that as trick-or-treaters, you know, with people that'll scare the kids, and it's so much fun. I love it.
I love it. I love it. I love it every year. So we have someone, I don't know who it is, so you do have to go to streamyard.com/Facebook just to let us know. But they're saying, good morning, beautiful, badass ladies. Happy Friday. Maybe that's your wife. I don't know.
I don't think so. I think that might be Kim.
Oh, okay.
Kim,
yeah.
close, another close lady to her. But she always calls us beautiful, badass ladies. She's so sweet. Yeah, no, I think my wife is sleeping in.
Oh,
we've just had such a busy month, you know, which is why nesting November is necessary.
I love it. Oh, it just changed. Oh no, that was not me. So this is Kim. She said,
she said that was me.
Yeah. Oh, that was me. Oh, okay. I thought she was saying it again. So,
She switched to LinkedIn. She's double fisting this morning.
And I noticed Maria's joining from YouTube today. So that's awesome. So we got all the mediums represented today.
Yes, that's awesome. Usually, sometimes we can't see the people from YouTube. So this is great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We have a really cool speaker to introduce you to. So Sarah, why don't you tell a little bit about how you came to meet Karen?
Yeah, so on a previous episode, I was interviewing Julie Ross Powers, and Karen had a similar acquaintance, and that person had posted out about Julie joining us, and Karen reached out to us because she had a story that's similar but not the same. So it's a quite interesting conversation with her about self-healing, and then also the journey that she has gone through, and then how it is that now she's also helping others. And so with that, I want to go ahead and just bring Karen on, have her do an official introduction to herself. So let's go ahead and do that. And let's get things set up with the right profile. There we go. Welcome, Karen.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here today.
That's awesome. So tell me, one thing I forgot to do behind stage is tell me how do you pronounce your last name?
It's Tavolieri.
Tavolieri. Perfect.
Yeah.
And what is the origin?
It's Italian.
Okay.
That's what I thought.
It's Italian.
We got the Italian group today.
Yes. My name was Filippo, and now it's Phillips, but my dad is first generation American, so we have lots of Italian.
And I married into an Italian, so.
Yes.
That was me. My husband was actually born in Italy, so I call him the thoroughbred of the family.
So are you guys dual citizens?
No.
Okay.
No, he hasn't been there since he was 13, so it's been a long time.
Okay.
I keep telling him I want to go back because his home is still standing to this day, and their family still has it. Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, Maria's from
Oh yeah.
Sorry,
so first he was remarking, so we match, with the material. You also have a lot of other colors represented, so we'll talk about that. But she also said that Sicilian, repping here, so she is also Italian as well. So,
that's great.
Yes.
Well, so today we want to talk a little bit about going through the life of Karen. And so one of the things that we wanted to do, you have a really amazing story as we start to get further into the adulthood. But I thought that we might first start off with, a little bit more about Karen as a young person. So can you paint a little bit more of a picture for us of what was life like when you were a young child?
Well, when I was born, it was Chatham, Ontario that I was born in, and my parents had family there. My father did, and I grew up being an only child until just before my 6th birthday. And I really liked being an only child because I told my mom and dad to take him back. I didn't want him, and so I struggled for the next while with having a little brother. Not being the limelight. I really guess I liked being in the limelight. So we lived there until I was 10. And then my father's business took him to another town. We went to London. Then we lived there for a little over a year. We went to Hamilton. We lived there for a little over a year. And we went to Sault Ste. Marie. By the time I went to Sault Ste. Marie, I was in halfway through grade 8. And I did grade 8 and finished there. And grade 9. Then we moved to Windsor, Ontario, where I currently live now in that area. And at that point in life, I was not a happy person. I wasn't getting along with my parents. I was tired of moving. I never had any friends that I had to keep, like you always have your best friend that you grow up with, most people. I didn't have that. And so I started a new school here in Windsor. And when I started, they said I wasn't registered. I was a week late starting, which just set me off on a very bad place to be in. And I spent 4 years struggling with my mother and didn't like being in Windsor. We always had a rocky relationship, and I'm pretty sure that's the reason why I moved out and got married so young, was because I just wanted to get away. And looking back, I wish I'd have known what I know now back then, but you do what you do with what you have at the time. So I got married, and I was 20. And then I had my first child just before my 21st birthday. And I think all of my childhood years, I really wanted to be a mom. And I always loved nurturing things. I always was the one who brought home stray animals. I wanted to make everybody's life happy, and even animals. So I was so excited to be a mom. And the first year and a half with her was just absolutely amazing. And then I was pregnant again for my second one. And my second one was really odd, the pregnancy. I kept telling the doctors I felt like there was something wrong with my baby. I kept asking them to do more ultrasounds, and they kept saying, no, we can't do that. It was back in 1985 when they were doing lots of stopping people from getting the ultrasounds because everybody was going to find out the sex of their baby. So I wasn't able to have another one. Well, she was born with multiple disabilities, and her start in life was not very good. They broke her leg in 3 places, and then they sent us home with a child saying, well, back then they told us that children like this don't feel pain. So we were told to give her nothing. So I went home to a baby who cried 24/7 for 3 days. And I can remember calling my mother and saying, Mom, you need to find somebody to do something for me, because if not, tonight's garbage night and she's going out. And I didn't mean it, but that's how I felt. I didn't know what to do anymore. My oldest one, it was only a year and a half. She was always crying. This one's always crying. So it ended up that they had someone come in and they helped us. And then they told us, no, children feel pain. You need to start giving her meds. And then she started to sleep for a few hours at a time. And it was like heaven. It was just amazing. But when she was born, they told us that she probably wouldn't live past 2. So I spent the next 30 years every day waking up wondering if this was the last day that she would be here. So my adult life was a lot of anxiety, a lot of grief. I spent many days grieving the fact that my child wasn't normal. She never could sit up properly. She could never crawl. She could never walk. And so it was always a battle. We were going through surgeries all the time. So it was not a fun time growing up with Julie. I learned a lot of things. I learned how to fight for what I wanted because I wasn't having my child being lumped in a category. When she was 2, she was having so much trouble breathing that this one doctor just said to me, well, kids like this, we just give them a tracheostomy. And I'm like, what do you mean kids like this? She's not just a kid like this. She's unique. She's her. And I want what's best for her. So we ended up going to a different doctor. And this doctor actually put her in the OR. And he said to me, says, I'm going to be quite a while because I'm going to do another surgery while she's out. I want to listen to her, watch her, and see what happens. So it was about 5 hours later. And I'm like to the nurses, what's going on? Why is this taking so long? And he came out about 6 hours later. And he said, well, I have some good news and some bad news. He said, she definitely has to have a tracheostomy. And he said, but the reason why is that her vocal cords were paralyzed, almost totally shut over her windpipe, which meant she couldn't breathe. And her body was starving for oxygen, which is why she hadn't grown any weight in over a year. So I said, well, what happens if we don't give it to her? Because I'd done some research on trachs, and it was a lot of work, a lot of risk involved with infections and things. And he said, well, if you don't give it to her, she has about 6 months. I said, well, then you better go in there and give it to her. So she got the trach. And she actually was a pretty amazing child, even with all her problems. She always had a smile on her face. Even after surgery, she would come out with a smile. So I spent the next 28 years taking care of Julie. She was my sole thing. And I learned how to function with having one disabled child, and she was severely disabled. She couldn't lift her arms past here. She couldn't brush her hair. Her tracheostomy had to be cleaned all the time and changed. And there was a lot of things that she had to have. She had constantly had surgeries in her lifetime. She had over 110. And then it got to the point where when she turned 16, she was having more problems breathing. So she used to only have a machine at night to help her breathe through the day. Well, now she had to have a ventilator that was attached to the back of her wheelchair that she used 24/7 to help her survive. Well, I thought I had everything all figured out. And then my other daughter, my oldest daughter, she was always healthy, always doing what she wanted to do and loving life. She struggled having a sister who was always taking me away from her, which was hard. That was a lot of guilt on me. So at 19, she had a stroke. And I was like, wait a minute here. This is my healthy kid. This can't be happening. What am I doing wrong that all this stuff is happening to me in life? So they could never figure out what had happened, why she had it. They told me that it was because she was doing drugs and she was this, she was that. And I kept saying, no, my child is not that. She's a straight A student. She works at a clothing shop. She really is a good kid. And when her car doesn't move for 4 days, there's seriously something wrong with her. But they kept telling me that. And so they said, there's nothing we can do. She had some lingering effects. She dragged her leg a little bit and she couldn't write. She totally could not write her name anymore at all. She couldn't do the alphabet. So we had to teach her all that over again. And she was supposed to start university in 3 months. So we got her back, we got her into university. We fought to get her some note takers and a recorder to record things. So then we get her settled, and then both of them, amazing children that they were, not to brag, but I am a proud mama. They both applied to get into a course in university where it's a concurrent program, and there's thousands who apply and only 35 get chosen. They both got chosen the same year to go into this program. So they both graduated with BAs and ECEs and BEDs and all these other initials that I don't know all about, but they both got their degrees and did amazing. Julie's took an extra year longer because they were ECE certified, so they had to go into the daycares and work in there, and she got sick when she went in, so she ended up in hospital for 6 months and lost her year. So I went to bat for her at the university, got her a year extension so that she could go back in, and she did end up graduating, getting all that. And then in 2015, she had actually it was before that. In 2011, my oldest daughter again had 2 more strokes. And I was away on my first ever winter vacation with my husband. And I get this call in a dollar store on the Colorado River. And it was my ex-son-in-law. And he says, she's in the hospital. I don't know what's wrong with her. I'll call you when I know something. As it turned out, they had ambulanced her from one little town in Deep River, Ontario to Pembroke. Pembroke couldn't figure out what was wrong with her. They accused him of trying to kill her. They accused her of trying to commit suicide. Then they got her medvaced by helicopter to Ottawa, Ontario, and they found out that she had a hole in her heart since birth and no one had caught it. So she had to have heart surgery. So now I'm dealing with 2 kids who are really, really sick. She gets everything she needs. She gets a little bit better. She has lasting effects that will never go away. She didn't end up being able to practice in her teaching degree. She couldn't work at this point anymore. So then in 2015, Julie got really tired and she was struggling even more. She was on so many pain meds that she couldn't function, and they couldn't give her any more pain meds. And she went into hospice care. And we had talked many, many times over the years how when she got tired, my power of attorney was that I could have her taken off this life support system. The only part is that no one in hospice care here had ever been taken off life support who could still talk to you and who was still coherent and knew what was going on in their world. So it was very, very tough to sit back and say, yes, I want this to happen, because I had watched her struggle to breathe so many times and almost lost her so many times. So the one nurse says to me, she says, are you okay with tomorrow? Because they spent days talking to doctors in other towns trying to figure out how to do this and what happens if she doesn't pass away. So we ended up, the lady says to me, are you okay? And I said, no, I'm not okay. I can't watch this again. I've watched it too many times. I can't watch her suffer. She says, don't worry about it. She says, I've got a huge prayer chain group and I'm going home to activate this prayer chain and we'll get it done. So this was September the 28th at night. And I was staying in the hospice apartment in the basement. And I went and I prayed to God, please don't let this happen this way. Take her home. That's where she wants to be. And I'm happy with that. That's how I would like it to be. So the next morning I woke up and I went upstairs to be with her. And I used to always sing this song. There was a song and it's called Lord, It's All About You. And it's very, very powerful Christian song. And I used to sing it to her. It's all about you, June, whenever she'd get sick. And you got to come back to us and you got to get healthy again. And you got to be with us. And so I'm singing her this song and I'm brushing her hair and I'm washing her face. And one nurse comes in and I said, she's not here anymore now. And she said, yes, she is, because you could hear the of the life support system going. And I said, no, she's left us. And the nurse goes and gets a stethoscope and comes back and says, you're right, she's gone. And I knew in my heart that that's the way I wanted it. And she wanted it. And neither of us suffered this way. And it was so much better. But I had spent 30 years making this child a child who was like anybody else. I wanted her to have a good life and I wanted her to enjoy life. And she always did to the fullest. Everything she went through, she always had a smile on her face. She'd had an end of life party at the hospice and we had all her favorites. We had a chocolate fountain, a champagne fountain, cannolis coming out the wazoo. We had calla lilies everywhere, her favorite flowers. We had peacock feathers everywhere because she just absolutely loved peacocks and she had her hair colored like mine is. And so she went out with a bang and had a smile on her face. She could hardly recognize some of the people because she was so drunk that day, but she absolutely loved it. And I started into a spiral of darkness on that day. I didn't know how to do anything else in life but to take care of her. And right. She was my mission, right?
Yeah. So Karen, can I circle back on a couple things related to your daughter? So one of the things that really stood out to me when we spoke previously is that your daughter was born with all of these different types of disabilities. And in some ways, some of the things that you told me and you said even here today is that people didn't really look at her in some ways as a person. They saw the disabilities. They didn't see the human that was within her. And one of the things that I really loved that you talked about is you were really going to focus on giving her a normal life. And also you really focused on being an advocate for her in making sure that people saw her as a human and understood she is going through pain, as you said. But can you also talk about some of the things related to her that I think the thing that I think is important as parents have a disabled child and they're going through this with their child is sometimes how it is that other people tend to treat them. Can you talk a little bit about the things that you did to make sure you advocated for your daughter?
Absolutely. It's I saw a show on 60 Minutes about a person who had a reciprocated gait brace who would help someone who couldn't walk to be able to walk. And I asked the doctor, can we have this brace? And he said, no, she won't be able to do it. And I says, how do you know she won't be able to do it? She used to pull herself up on the railing and get up on her knees and sit at the railing on the porch so she could see the kids. I said, she really wants to stand. And he said, it's $5,000 for her to not be able to do it. I says, it's not your choice. I says, I want her to have it. She got that brace. And do you know, she practiced every day at school and she walked down the aisle in a wedding with her sister in that brace, even though he said she couldn't have it, because I wanted her to be able to experience life different than what she would have had just sitting in a wheelchair. Same thing in the school system. they came to me and told me that she can't go to the rehab center for the daily, it's like a nurse daycare, but they have physio and everything else. And they told me she can't go there because she has a tracheostomy and there's no one to take care of her on the ride. So they said, you're going to have to drive her. And I said, why do I have to drive her? Other parents don't have to drive their kids. They get picked up by the bus. So I went to my member of parliament. And I said, you better find me somebody who can ride the bus with this kid because I don't have time to do this. I have another kid. And we got what we wanted. We got an aide. And that aide was with her all the way through high school, the same aide.
Wow.
And it was like, you always have to be the squeaky wheel, because if you're not, your child is going to not have what they need. They told me one time that she couldn't have a bigger desk at her spot in the class because she needed all these extra things to help her. They said, she can't have a bigger desk because the classroom isn't big enough. I said, well, you better make room for it. I said, she needs it. She has to have it. Another one, they told me that Julie came home crying one day, and I says, what is the matter? She says, they won't let me in the classroom until I go up and down the halls and my tires dry on my wheelchair in the wintertime. I'm like, what? Why didn't you tell me this? So I went to the school and I said, you guys need to get a carpet and you need to put it outside her classroom. She'll ride on the carpet for a minute and then her tires will be dry. But why are you taking her out of the classroom because she has wet tires? All these kids come in through the school with wet boots. They can change them. She can't change this. There's nothing she can do about it. You're segregating
Right.
her. Don't like it. And of course, they got a carpet. She did it. And, you just got to try and find the ways to make it so that they can be as normal as possible. They have enough struggles in life as it is. To have to do crazy little things that other people set upon them is not fair.
Right. I agree. I'm. How old were you when you had Julie? Because you were 20. You were married at 20, and then
Erin was 21, and I was just about 23. She was born.
So you had your other daughter first, right, yes. Erin?
Right.
They were 17 months apart.
Okay. So, I mean, it's just absolutely phenomenal as to how strong you were at such a young age. I mean, your brain wasn't even done developing yet, right? Our brains develop until we're 25, and here you were able to be such a wonderful advocate for your kid right out of the gate. I think that's just phenomenal, Karen.
Well, all my life I'm a strong Christian, and, everybody has what they are. But as a child, I looked to that for relief because my family dynamics, I felt like I was the outsider. So my parents wouldn't go to church because my brother didn't like it. I went with any neighborhood family who would take me to church. I went to church with them because I felt that was my security and that was my thing that I could always lean on. And all the times I can always remember saying to my kids and to myself, I can get through anything if I just believe and have faith in myself and my God. And I've truly been blessed. And I didn't see her as a blessing all those years. I will be honest. Mm-hmm. I felt like I was burdened. And like I said, when I had Julie and then later on when Erin had her strokes, it's like, oh my God, how can this be happening to me? I've got one, I don't need two. And then it was like after I had lost Julie and I went into that dark hole, that's when things started to change. And that story to me is just my ultimate. My daughter hates it, my eldest daughter, because it involves her. But it was where things really started to shift for me and what I realized what I had been through and why.
Yeah. And so, Erin, growing up, one of the things that you had mentioned is that I had asked you a little bit more about you're spending all this time with Julie and helping your daughter that is disabled. And you have this other child that is feeling what? How is it that she felt as she was growing up and then she becomes sick? How does that then change in the relationship for you as well?
It was very hard for Erin growing up. She was like me. She didn't get along with her father. They were always butting heads. And her father was under the impression that Erin should give up her life and make Julie's life happy. You stay home with your sister. You don't need to go with them because your sister can't go. She needs somebody to play with. And it really, really affected our dynamics as a family. And I can remember always saying to her, it's okay, Erin, we'll go do something else and leave Julie with Dad, and we'll go do something to make up for it, because she was always feeling left out. Julie's surgeries were never in our city. They were always 2 hours away. So I would be gone weeks on end. She'd get dumped with my mother, and then she'd get picked up by her father. So she was always, always suffering. She had a lot of resentment towards Julie. A lot of it was placed on her through, limiting beliefs and negative emotions that were dumped on her through her father and her grandmother. And so growing up, she had a lot of anger towards Julie. She hated her a lot. And then when she got sick, things changed a bit. She could appreciate more of where Julie was. And when she got older, and I could get her to understand that I didn't choose to spend more time with Julie, I had no choice but to spend more time with Julie. And then at that point, she understood a bit better. Yeah. But then the part that really got hard was before Julie passed, and when she got really, really sick, and Erin had moved away, and she'd had her second and third strokes together, and she couldn't work. They spent so many hours on the phone. They spoke every day. And they had a bond that was unbreakable at that point. And Erin felt even more guilt because she'd missed out on so many years. And Erin would be walking around the house with the phone, and Julie would be sleeping, but she wouldn't hang up on Julie, so that as soon as Julie woke up, she would still be there. That's how close they really, truly were at the end. And it was pretty amazing. And I'll tell you, Julie was in a coma in the hospital in 2014 in December. And Erin had gone away with her husband at the time and her 3 kids to Algeria. And I didn't want to tell her that Julie was that sick and that she may not make it for her to get home. So finally, my husband says, you need to tell her she may not make it. The doctors didn't expect her to pull through. So I called Erin and told her, and she says, I'm coming home. I said, you can't afford it. It's too expensive. You need to wait till you're done your trip and then come home. And so she said, I'm going to make arrangements that I'm going to call the hospital. So we made arrangements for this specific time and for them to answer the phone for Julie. And I was supposed to be there. And when they're in ICU, the doctors do their rounds. You're not allowed to. So they kicked me out of the room, and I said, please make sure if that phone rings, you answer it. It's a very important call from Algeria. It's her sister. So the nurse says, don't worry, I'll make sure I answer it. So she answered the phone, and Julie's in a coma. We can't touch, she hasn't spoken in weeks at this point in time. And so the phone rings, she puts the phone to Julie's ear. And when I walked in, the lady says to me, I don't know what your daughter said to her, but she had the biggest smile on her face you could ever imagine. So when I talked to Erin afterwards, Erin said, I asked her, what did you say to Julie? And she says, I told her that I went to Paris on the flight. They stopped in Paris, and I bought you chocolates, and they cost me a fortune, and you better be awake when I get home so we can eat them together. Told after Christmas, she woke up, and in the meantime, my fiance at the time had said to her, Julie, because we always gave her reasons to keep living. Like, you're going to have your first nephew. You're going to have the twins are going to be born. We could always get her a reason to keep going, right? So my husband had also whispered to her at this time, he said in her ear, if you wake up and come back to us, I'll marry your mom so that you can be at the wedding. So the first thing she says when she wakes up out of this coma in January is, so when are you marrying my mom, and where are my chocolates?
Oh my goodness.
Wow. So
I love
everybody,
it.
just remember that when someone's in a coma, don't hesitate to say anything that's on your mind and what you want that person to know in their time, because they hear everything we say. She's proof positive.
Wow.
That is amazing.
Yes.
So, I mean, that really is sort of proof that people can hear, even though they're in some other state. And so that is an amazing ability for, just amazing story to be able to have that and just to help people to understand how they can continue to nurture people even whenever they're in a coma.
Yeah. It was a beautiful thing to have her wake up and say that. So
Yes, I can't imagine.
Yes. So needless to say, I ended up getting married, and she walked me down the aisle in her wheelchair, so that it was her very last thing she did in life for me was doing that. And that was in July of 2015. And then she passed away in September of 2015.
How old was she when she passed away?
She was 2 weeks shy of her 30th birthday.
30th birthday.
Yeah. And they told us she wouldn't live past 2 when she was born. So she did some pretty amazing things in her lifetime. And she was, to this day, 8 years later, I still have people who meet at an event that I'm at, a networking group or anything, and they'll say, I love your hair. And I always tell my story why I have my hair. And they'll say, your daughter had that color? And I'd say, yeah. And I said she was in a wheelchair, and she had a special needs dog that ran along beside her. Oh my gosh, I know, Julie. She was always going down the road as fast could be, and the dog's running along beside her trying to keep up to her wheelchair. And I'm like, yep, you know my Julie. And they all of them say how much of a beautiful person she was, and always had a smile on her face.
So tell us the significance, a little bit more, our audience, of the peacock. So we see the peacock behind you, and then you also shared that you've added some colors to your hair as well. So can you also tell us a little bit about that too?
Yes. Well, Julie, when she passed away, we all have had the same hairdresser for probably 25 years. And before Julie passed, she wanted her hair colored as a peacock. So she got it colored in the purple and the blue. And so she always had that. And when she passed away, about a year in, I was so depressed, and my hairdresser says, I've got something that'll help you out. So she put a little blue and a little purple streak. It started just a little bit, just a tiny little bit. And I felt like Julie was with me. It was just like Julie was attached to me, and I felt so good that it just ended up getting a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And so my daughter, when she moved back to Windsor, because that was the only good thing that came out of Julie passing, was my daughter realized that life's too short, and she was in a bad marriage and decided to get out, and she moved back to Windsor. And so she could now afford to go to the hairdresser that we went to and get her hair done, because she lived in a remote area and it cost like 3 times as much to color your hair. So she started putting the colors in her hair. And I said from the get-go, I was only going to have peacock colors in my hair, the purple and the bluey color. And then my daughter had identical twins. And before they were born, one was purple and one was pink, because we had to put colors on them immediately so we would know who was who. And when they got old enough, the oldest of the twins, her color was pink. And she'd say to me, Nanny, no Rory hair. And that was her color for pink. She used to call her Rory. And so I said, yeah, because Nanny wears her hair in peacock colors. And unfortunately, your brother and your sister are those colors. And I felt so bad. I was like, I'm neglecting one of my grandchildren. That's not fair. 1 out of 3 can't not be in my hair. So I put a bit of pink in my hair so that I could have her. And then my daughter decided to have a 4th one, and his color ended up being green. So I had to put a bit of green in my hair. So that's where the colors come from. I have Julie and my 4 grandchildren in my hair all the time. They're always with me. And I just love it. For me, it just helps to light me up, knowing that Julie was such a light in this world that I feel that I'm just carrying that on for her.
Yeah.
I love that story. The reason why I have the tattoo on the back of my head is because of something I went through with my eldest son, or we went through as a family, and I just needed something that was painful but transformative, and then to show also how strong I am, and I do carry that with me. So I love that you do this and you continue to, and it sounds like Erin does as well, right? She colors her hair.
Yes.
So it won't be long before the kiddos do too, I suppose.
Oh,
right?
They all do. They all have it.
Yes. This is awesome. I love it.
It's funny because when you've been through something very traumatic, like Erin, she misses her sister every day. And she's like me. She says, it never gets easier. It just gets you learn a new normal, right? Yeah. And so it's it's a comfort knowing that you have that little thing that just always, you can just look at yourself in the mirror and be reminded of all the fun you had with that person, because that's what I want it to be. I want to remember all the fun things. I want to forget and not have to be reminded of all the things that were hard. And that's where the healing came from, what I went through to get to that point. But it's just such a great thing to have that positive reinforcement in our life to get us through those pain days. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that you can find, like having the tattoo on your head, it's got to be when you're feeling kind of at that point, when you're feeling kind of blue, you just kind of, yeah, I got it, I can do this, right?
Yep, exactly.
So then you talked about your daughter passed away and you went through a very dark place. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what it is that happened that helped you to see the light?
Okay. Having lost a child, to me, was there could be no more pain that could be so hard. And I compare that as well to having a loss in a pregnancy. It's a horrible situation. And I don't know whether it would be easier that she passed away earlier or that, she lasted long enough. It doesn't matter what it is. It's a horrible pain. And even though I had another daughter and I had grandchildren and I had a husband, I couldn't see past that pain. It felt like every day, just a little bit more of my heart was breaking. And I just kind of went along with emotions. I went on a trip, did this, did that. I always put on a happy face. Everybody thought I had the world by the tail, and nobody could understand how I was feeling inside. And then one day when Aaron had moved back here, we were at a mutual friend's place for coffee. And it was just right around COVID. And this lady came in that I knew of her, but I didn't really know her. And she looks at me and she says, "I have a message for you from Julie." And I looked at her, I says, "You got a what?" She says, "Yeah, I have a message from Julie. Julie wants me to tell you that she didn't come to this earth and suffer and die an early death for you to be miserable for the rest of your life. And you better get off your ass and do something, or I'm going to come back and kick your ass." And those are exactly the words Julie would use, because Julie was like that. She didn't hold nothing back. If she had something to say, you were going to hear it whether you wanted to hear it or not. Okay. And I wasn't that kind of person. I was always the one who I avoided conflict to any extreme. Right. So it was like, yeah, okay. And that wasn't what hit me. Erin was standing beside me, and her words to me literally crushed my heart. She said, "Yeah, Mom, you still have me and the 4 kids." And I had no clue how bad I was ignoring the rest of my family. And it wasn't just her, it was my husband, because we didn't talk about it until just recently. We've started talking about it. He says, "Yeah," he says, "I knew how bad you were hurting me." He says, "I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to talk to you because it wasn't his daughter. This was a second marriage."
Right.
He had no clue how I was feeling. He'd never lost a child. I mean, he loved Julie. There's no question about that. But he just didn't get where I was coming from. So then when I heard that from Aaron, I decided that I needed to do something. And I was just about to turn 60. And so I decided to go on a self-love venture, I'll call it. And I saw a Facebook post from a lady that I had no clue who she was. And it was like, "I'm looking for 50 women over 50 who want to do a photo shoot. I'm doing a collaboration of all these women." So I thought, what the heck? Why not? I said, I always wanted to be a model. My dad says, "Nope, you can't be a model." So I never got to be a model. So I went photo shoot and I felt amazing. She was such a great photographer. And after it was done, she sent me one of the pictures. She says, "You were a model today. You got to be a blue jean model and you got to be a Vogue model and this and that." And I felt so good. I was just like on top of the world. And then I decided to take a vision board course and an Enneagram course. And I did the 2 things together because I thought maybe this will help me figure out what I'm supposed to do in life, right? So I did those 2 and I learned a lot about myself, a lot about being a people pleaser and how I avoided conflict and what type of Enneagram I was. And I found a lot of things doing my vision board that what I truly wanted to do in life. So that was the start of it. And I couldn't get enough at that point. So. Yeah, I started doing that. And then right after I did those two things, the vision board course became a class that you could take and become a trainer in it. So I did that and became certified as a Dare to Declare vision board trainer. And then I met a lady while I was doing networking and trying to get classes going to do vision boards. And she was a hypnotherapist trainer. So I decided, I like this. This is kind of cool. So I became a certified hypnotherapist. And through that, I decided to do NLP coaching. And so
tell us what NLP stands for.
Neuro-Linguistic Programming, where we take the pathways in our brain and we can change the story that's running in our head and make it a better one, a really one, instead of the one that was taught to us by our peers and our parents and everybody else. So we can make our own story. Well, when I did that, I'm telling you, my world changed. I had always looked at Julie and Aaron to a certain extent as burdens in my life, that I was dealt this blow because I'd done something wrong in life and I was meant to suffer. And I always felt so much guilt and so much pain when it came to, if I'd have done this with Julie, if I'd have done that with Julie, why didn't I do this? And all these things kept coming up. Well, when I took my NLP course and I did a breakthrough where you release fear, anger, guilt, sadness, oh my gosh, I lost a backpack worth 100 pounds off my back. I felt unbelievably free. Yeah. And so that really started to realize what I could be in life and who I could help. And so I did that. And then I met this wonderful lady who does Reiki training. And so I became a Reiki master. And now I'm going back through to become a life coach. I'm doing that training now because I truly, in my life, I want to help other mothers to realize that grief is not a life sentence. It's a life changer. And you truly, really can have an amazing life after losing a child, losing anything, because grief isn't just about losing a child. Grief could be losing the dream job you had. It could be having an empty nest. It could be going through a divorce. And grief can also just be day-to-day life for some people, that they just can't get past it. And you really, truly can, if you have the right person in your corner showing you the different things that you can achieve and who you truly are, not who you think you are because of what other people have placed upon you. It really is freeing. I can't tell you how much freer I feel in life and how much happier and how much joy I have with my grandkids and my daughter. The relationship I have now with my daughter is so much better. I mean, I
love your honesty. Like, it's so refreshing. I mean, I have my wife and I have 6 kids, and a lot of them have special needs and have had all sorts of, and mainly mental health, a little bit of physical stuff, but mainly mental and behavioral. And there are times when I feel quite burdened, and it's hard to talk about that. I have talked about it honestly and openly because that's who I am. But it also, there's a side to it that feels a little shame, right? That you feel ashamed for feeling this way over a gift, a human, another, everything, that there is in your life. When you're a mom, it's your whole world. And then all of a sudden you also have this shame about how really frustrating your whole world is, right? So I really find that refreshing. And I'm so thankful and grateful that you are willing to speak as honestly as you are about those relationships and how you felt.
It's not easy. And that's where we need to learn to realize that it is okay to feel these things. And it's okay to seek help to get past those things. Because I went to, support groups, and I did this and I did that. And I went to psychologists, and as great as they all were, I will not deny any of them being amazing, because they all were. They just don't understand how you're feeling. Some of them, if you haven't been there and you haven't done it, you can't relate to it. No matter how much you try, books will not teach you how to do it. And so that's where I really, truly, my mission in life is to be able to help, first off, a support group through Facebook I'm trying to grow, to help other parents with children with disabilities, to have a place that you're free to go to where you can ask questions. Did you ever, anybody ever have this problem? You know, what did you do? How can I fix this? And, you know, more heads together make for quicker and easier decisions, right? And so that's part of what I want to do. And the other part is I just want to be able to have moms who have been through this, who are suffering, to get through it faster. There's no excuse for any of us to have to suffer for a very long time.
Yeah, right. To normalize the suffering to some degree, but also the recovery from the suffering.
Yes.
Right? Like that needs to be a normal thing. My mother died before I was 1. And I had that family in my life growing up, and my grandmother, she couldn't ever let it go. You know, like it actually affected our relationship in a lot of ways, because I was just not good enough. I wasn't Wendy, you know, like, but I was a reminder of Wendy. And my brother fared a lot better. He had a very different, loving relationship with them, where I didn't, you know, because I was the girl. Like, so Wendy had me and one of my younger brothers. And he had a completely different, very loving relationship, but I couldn't ever kind of live up to it. And I feel as though part of it was this connection, and the grieving becomes a part of your identity in a way. I feel like for some people, and she couldn't let it go. Like,
yep.
Didn't, you know, and that didn't feel normal to her anymore, to actually have a life without suffering.
Yes. Yeah. And I can relate to that, because when my one granddaughter, one of the twins, was born, one is very tomboyish and she's adorable, and the other one is a spitting image of Julie. She acts like Julie. She does she's the princess, and just all about her. And she's got the look of her. She looks exactly like her. And at first, before I went through the healing, I avoided her at all extremes. I avoided her because I couldn't tolerate looking at her and seeing Julie and constantly being reminded of that pain from when she was little. But now we're very close, and she's just, I adore the things with her. And I even say to her, "Oh, you're just like your Aunt Julie. Your Aunt Julie would do exactly the same thing. You know, she'd have to have the fur dress, or she'd be standing in front of the mirror doing poses, you know," and that's what this one is. And I can love it now, and I can enjoy it. And that's where I want to travel the world and teach women that, you know, there's so much more in life than that child. And I want you to take that child, take all the burdens and all the pain and the suffering, and dump it out of that backpack, and pick up all the beautiful, beautiful stuff about that child, and hold it close and share it with others, so that you can actually have that life that you deserve, because you really do deserve a life.
Yeah. And so I love what you said. You know, grief is not a life ender, it's a life changer.
Yes.
And I think that that's important for people to understand, that we go through difficulties, we go through challenges in life, but it's really about the lesson that we're not opening our eyes to. And I actually just said this today to someone. I had posted out, your past is just a lesson, not a life sentence. Yes. So the death of your daughter was not a life sentence for you to continue to feel grief. It was a lesson. What was the lesson from that? And sometimes we close ourselves off to only hearing no, like, no, she's not there. No, you know, all of those types of things, but we're not hearing the yes that is out there begging us to come find it. So in life, we tend to avoid the things that are really calling us, because we're so stuck in the no, in the grief, in the, you know, all the things that people are putting on us, and the limiting beliefs that you mentioned, that you have to get off of you in order to even see the yes, to see the possibilities.
You're right. It's so true. And I was living in that spot where it was so many burdens that I was carrying. And then when I was able to let go of them, it was like, wow, I really need to share this message with other ladies because it's just not meant to be. We're not supposed to be like this. I mean, where does it say that we have to suffer a life, and I know some cultures, they have to do this when someone dies, and it's like, but why? How does that make you better because you do that? And how does it make your life better?
Right.
It's not that I don't, I want them to change. It's just there's so many different ways to look at life and realize that, none of us have to do anything. We choose to do what we do because of beliefs that we have from other people, because that's where that started. Some of those, those cultures, they've done it for many, many, many years, but maybe there's one person who might be that little rebel, and I can change that and get them to say, you know what, I've got the rest of my family that I'd like to be able to enjoy. Life truly is short. Once you've lived it and had to deal with it, it is short. And Kate, for you having lost your mom that young, that I'm so sorry for that happening to you, because that changed your life forever. And it's those things that other people have put upon you, the feelings you felt with your grandmother, and I know that I was doing that with my little one and Kimberly. And now I know that growing up, she will have her nanny there that will always be there to support her. And she's just Kimberly. She's not Julie replica. And that is hard for some people to get past. It really truly is.
And what a beautiful thing that Kimberly can come to you at any point in her life and say, hey, I have this memory, or I have this thing, and you can be honest and talk about it. And you have, on top of this amazing close relationship that you already have created.
Yes. And it's funny. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
It's okay.
No, you.
I was going to say that these kids all, even though Jackson, the oldest grandson, is the only one who really was of age when she passed. He has a lot of memories of doing things with her, riding on her wheelchair and everything else with her. But every night at supper, they go through everybody's day. They always eat together, and each one asks, Jackson, how was your day? Mom, how was your day? And Kimberly, and on and on. And at the end of it, one of the kids, usually Kimberly, will always say, Aunt Julie, how was your day today? Even though she's not with us, she's a part of us always. And that's what, bringing the good stuff out and having these kids remember her, and knowing that, Kimberly will say, well, Aunt Julie was with Mommy today. She did this, or she was with Nanny today and she did this, because they all know that she's around us, and they all feel her. And I know that the oldest Jackson, I know she's with him a lot. It's really, really unbelievable how much she is with him.
So I'm going to pull up some comments from Maria. Maria said, reprogramming is my best hobby. And so
good hobby to have.
Yeah. And so, half of all of that negative stuff that we've grown up with, the reprogramming, and also some of the other things. And she mentioned something that I find interesting. This is something I had learned as well, is I've read that the missing time in the Bible of Jesus, he was studying Reiki, and that's how he did his miracles. And so I'm curious, do you have any thoughts on that?
I truly believe that in the Bible, there are so many times, if you look back and see and think about it, how many times did Jesus just put his hands on somebody? And that's all he said was, just bring them to me and let me touch them.
Yep.
And that is truly, even if all of us have it within us to be able to heal somebody, even with our words, right? If we just speak to someone about how they're having a bad day, and we can say to them, do you know what? Try not to think about that and look at what's to come in this afternoon, that what you could be doing this afternoon, and just to flip that brain and give that brain power, the positive power it needs. You can change somebody's day in a split second with only just a few words. And that's what I truly believe was Jesus was just doing Reiki. And I know a lot of religions don't believe in it, but all he said was, bring them to me, let me place my hands on them. And
let me put my hands on them.
I love
look at how, I did too.
I didn't know what to expect this morning, but wow, I've experienced so many emotions hearing this. Thank you for sharing your story, Karen. And so, Karen, I do want to focus on today some of the other things you have going on. So if people want to connect with you, you're doing also a workshop in November, right?
Unfortunately, it had to be postponed because I have been sick. So it will be offered again. It is an in-person one, but I'm going to be looking at doing some online things where I'm going to do some workshops where you can come in and learn a few of the tricks of the trade that I do and see my world from my point of view, and see a little bit of hypno and a little bit of tricks that you can use when you're feeling stressed out, and how you can make a quick change and let something go and pick it up later if you need to. So I'm going to be posting those on my Facebook page and my Peacock Memories page, which I believe I gave you the link to those. And so those will be some really fun ones to come in, because I created my own hypno session where I've used the Peacock Garden as part of the hypno session. So it's really kind of unique.
Yeah, so I'll be posting out on all of the different mediums, all of the links that you have provided us. But a part of how we also like to give back to our audience is have you share a gift or a talent with the audience, and you had something specific that you wanted to offer to our audience today.
Yes, I like to have a call with whoever wants to find out more about what I do and how I can help them to do their what's next and find their dream life, because everybody has a dream life. Even if you don't think you do, you really, truly do. Deep down inside, there are ways to figure out what it is you want in life. And we can work together in setting goals and affirmations and get that dream life for you. And it's a free call, and all you have to do is click on the Calendly link and book a call with me. And I'm so excited to get to meet more people. And even if we're not a good fit, just to be able to, if you know somebody who's struggling with any of the issues that I've talked about today, I would please have them reach out to me. I really want to spread the word around the world that it just doesn't have to be this way. There's no law that says we have to stay stuck.
Yeah,
right.
I love that. And thank you so much for providing that to everyone. And even if it's not specifically, even if it's not something for you, you might know someone. So be sure to share. I also love the fact that you're wanting to be able to help others who have gone through what you have gone. Some of the things you had shared is like having to deal with a trachea, for example. Like that's scary for people, and you have a lot of experience with things like that. And as you're dealing with people that have disabilities, the things that you've learned along the way to be able to help them as well. So if you know of anybody that has a child that is disabled that might need that extra support, then we want to continue to try to connect them with Karen.
Yes, please. Because I really, truly want to be able to be there to support them. And part of what my mission is with my Facebook group for the parents with children with disabilities is once a month, I want to be able to go on and do a free relaxation hypno session with whoever wants to get in on it, because it is stressful living day to day with children with special needs. No matter what that special need is, it changes your life. And sometimes you just need that once a month pick me up that can get you through the next month.
I love that. I do have a quick question. I'm burning. I have to know.
Yeah.
What happened to your, like, did you that woman that came in the coffee shop and changed your life, right? She told you this message from Julie. Have you stayed in touch with her? Did you dig in? Like, how did you get this message? Or tell us a little more about it.
She is a psychic medium, I found out afterwards.
Okay.
And she has talked to us so many times. She is an amazing lady. She has such a gift that she has told me so many things from Julie. And also my mother passed, and she's helped me with connecting with my mother and some things that I wanted to clear up with that. And she has helped Erin in so many ways. Erin actually had, her father was tormenting her children after he passed in her home. And she went and told him he had to leave because he was harassing the children. And so she has been a huge, huge change in our life. And I actually have connected her with Julie because I had talked to Julie about her. And so, yes, she is just phenomenal. And she did not know anything about me and my story. So I know that she truly has a gift. And for her to say it in those exact words, that I knew it was from Julie and not her.
Yeah. Yeah. It gives me goosebumps. It brought tears to my eyes. I mean, just I cried throughout your story today. Just, you're a beautiful person. And
thank you.
So glad that you want to spread this love around and help others and end suffering. You are a gift.
Thank
You
you.
are. And you do it in such a colorful way as well. And that's just
Yes.
beautiful. I love that.
And genuine and real, you know, you're not afraid of the negative at all. You know, it's there, but I love that you really embrace the positive and do so in just an honest, vulnerable way.
You know, I always look at everything now as truly whatever you go through, there's always another side to it. You can get through anything. I mean, we were scammed out of $170,000 2 years ago, and I'm still here today, and I'm still moving on and working to get back to normal and letting things go aside. We're always going to have challenges and things in life that are not going to be the way we wanted them, but it's how we face them. And I've learned how to face them with courage and see the lesson that comes out of it. Because like you said, Sarah, the lessons are there. If we can just open our eyes and our ears and be aware of what's happening around us, we can have such a good life. We really, truly can.
We can.
Yeah. That is one of the benefits of going through, you know, horrible traumas is that if you survive, you have this added benefit of like, well, fuck, I can get through anything. You know? And that's how I feel right now. You know, it's like, bring it. You know, I got it. I know it's coming. You know, there's 8 of us in this house alone. You know, this shit's gonna happen, but I can get through it. You know,
and we are badasses. Right. We can do anything, right?
That's right.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
You're still walking and breathing. You can do anything. Truly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And I also want to just note that Karen is actually a part of the same book that Julie is a part of. So there are 130 women that are writing about their experience as a mother. And she is one of those authors. And this is going to be hopefully a world record book that they're looking to do. And it sounds like it's going to be released on Mother's Day next year, which is awesome. And so when it comes out, we'll also be sure to talk about it. And we have, you know, some thoughts maybe about other things that we can do with that. And so we'll also be sharing that later on next year as well as that comes out.
I love it.
Yes. Well, Karen, thank you so much for joining us today. It has been lovely to speak with you. I really appreciate your vulnerability and just sharing your story. And I also love that you are wanting to give back and help others as well. So, you know, I hope people will take advantage of going and talking to you for the free introductory conversation just to see how you can help them or help their loved ones. And so I just wanted to thank you again today for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much. I had so much fun, and I love to share my story. There's nothing more than the joy of being able to tell your story in a way that, you know, it is freedom and not from what it was before. So thank you again so much.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone for joining us today. I know that everybody was very intently listening, and so it was just a great story. So I just wanted to thank also our audience and for the comments that we received. And Kate, do you want to wrap us up for today?
Yes. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Karen. Let this inspiring conversation with this strong woman help fuel your Friday and your weekend. Go on with your badass selves and look for the positive, look for the transformative, and love. Just love each other. And thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah. And be sure to come back next week. We also have an amazing story. We actually have a veteran that'll be joining us for Veterans Day, and she has an amazing story as well. So be sure to check that out and come see us next week. So thank you again, Karen. Thank you, Kate. And thank you, everyone in our audience.
Thank you. Thank you.